Okay, we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is elemental magic. This is a brief overview. Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Amy, and if you're new here, I am a witch, a spiritual guide, and an energy healer, and I am so stoked that you are here. If you're not new here, hi. Welcome back. Today I want to talk about elemental magic. This is where I started my journey and I am still so in love with it. I don't practice it overtly as much as I used to because I'm always trying to learn and grow in new and different areas. But I do always come back to it and I do freaking love it, and I always work my primary element into my spells every single time. So, what is elemental magic? Simply put, it is when you utilize an element in your magic. Now, you don't have to be specifically a green witch or shadow witch or a light witch in order to utilize elements. You don't have to pick one if you don't want to, but a lot of people do identify with one more than the others. So I just want to give you a brief overview of the different elements, and then we're going to talk about how you can figure out what your primary element is if you do decide that you want to do that. So first, let's talk about elemental magic in general. The elements are as such. You've got fire, you've got air, earth, water. Those are the four that everybody knows, right? And then sometimes people will consider spirit or ether to be a fifth element, a sort of like overarching element, which is really more of almost a religious point of view, in my opinion. Not religious in like a churchy way, but like spirit really kind of represents our ability to interact with the spirit that is in everything, the energy that is in everything, and then our ability then to influence. It's the pentagram. It's the four elements, and then spirit on top, symbolizing that we have power to persuade the elements. I don't consider spirit an element because this is the spirit thumb. Because it is in everything. In my opinion, in my personal practice, I believe spirit or ether is in everything. So I don't consider it a separate element all on its own. So we've got four elements now. Is that it? Is that all of them? Why no, and I'm so glad that you asked. There's also light and shadow. Okay, these ones are particularly dear to my heart because my primary element is shadow. And I used to work very closely with somebody whose primary element was light, and it was a lot of fun because as you learn and as you have learned, if you've done tarot or watched Avatar: The Last Airbender or played video games ever that involve elemental magic, there are some basic principles that actually do apply in the real world. For instance, fire and water are not friends. Earth and air are not friends. They're contraindicated. However, earth and water get along just fine, and air and fire get along great. So once you understand that, and that the elements that are contraindicated do not directly react with each other very well, then you'll start to see why a lot of people tend to have a primary element or only work with one element at a time, even if they don't have a primary. Because if you try to bring in only fire and water into a working, you're going to have some energy that clashes. However, if you bring in all of your elements, like say you've got an altar and you have symbols for all of the elements on your altar or within your working, then you have balance, and balance is great. Two elements that automatically balance each other are light and shadow. Bear with me. You have the extremes, right? Pure light and pure darkness. Pure light is exactly that. It's the image of like walking toward the light. It's the image of like a room that is so bright white that you can't see anything, but you're just being swallowed in light. That is the extreme on the light side. And the dark side is obviously the extreme of complete pitch black, like being underground, being where there are no lights, there's no civilization, there's no stars, nothing. That is complete shadow, right? The instances when complete light and complete shadow actually exist are so rare. They're so very rare. So if you think about it, everywhere you look, like for instance, in this room, it's a little bit lighter, closer to the light in my ceiling or closer to my camera, right? But there's some shadow where Lilith is, and there are some shadows over there in my kitchen, and you see shades. You see light and dark mixing and intermingling. This is because shadow and light have to work together almost all of the time. They actually create a sort of balance and tension in and of themselves. So often shadow and light witches can work together very well. Even though they are technically opposing elements, they have to work together to create balance. They're like scales. That's probably why I love it, because I'm a Libra. Oh, and my light witch was also a Libra. I mean, she still is. So it can almost be easier for shadow and light witches to work together because they don't have to worry as much about overpowering each other, about ruining their spell work, about making each other sick with each other's energy, which actually is something that can happen. If you have one element and a friend or somebody that you know has the other element, and you charge your energy with your element and then give it to them, it might not make them feel the best. The opposite of your element really kind of is, it's sort of like poison. It can give you a headache or make you feel overwhelmed or drained or tired or something like that. Energy that is charged with an element that you are not necessarily in sync with can be detrimental. However, I haven't seen this happen purposely in a long time. I don't think a lot of people know that they can charge their personal energy with their elemental energy, which is one of the reasons why I really want to talk about it. A lot of witches talk about elemental magic. They talk about using fire in your spell work, using water in your spell work, air and earth, etc. I think it's really important to point out that when you start doing energy work and you start feeling energy in your hands and using it to do things and sending it places and bringing it back and like really working and manipulating with the energy that you have inside of yourself, you can charge it with anything you want. You can fill it with anything you want. Like we've talked about before, you can fill it with poison or something like that you need for defense. If you haven't watched it, check out my Protect Yourself from Energy Vampires video. It talks about this a little bit. But you can also fill it with your element, and often you'll find that that will start to happen sort of automatically. If the energy in your hands looks a certain color or feels a certain color, feels a certain element, feels a certain way, then there's a good chance that's your element coming out naturally. That's what that is. So my element is shadow. It is the one I work with the most. I also work very closely with fire. I've always been very interested in fire and also in earth. Now you'll notice water is something that I love. In general, I love the ocean, but I'm also kind of afraid of it. And air, while I love it, I love because I love the energy. I love the spirit that is in nature, period. I don't work with air. I probably could if I really wanted to try, but one of my best friends is just phenomenal with air, and I just let her do it. She's great. She can summon storms and all kinds of shit. We have different skill sets. So I can get a candle flame to listen to me. I can manipulate it. I use flames a lot in my spell work, and likewise, I end up burying the remains of my spell work pretty often, or using some sort of earth like chalk or salt or dirt or charcoal in my spell work pretty often. And that is okay because earth and fire are neutral with each other. And shadow is sort of in the middle of them. It sort of brings them together. Now, shadow work and light work are a little bit different because you can't capture a shadow and you can't capture a light the same way you can a candle flame or a bowl of water or a bowl of salt. Or, I still haven't come up with a really good one for practicing air, and I've been putting it off because I don't do it. But if you have a good way to symbolize air for an altar or for a working, let me know. Put that in the comments down below, please, because you'll be helping me out as well as everybody else. It will be a learning opportunity for me, and I need those. I need them in my life. If you want to practice with a light or with shadow, you could use a candle flame. You could do that. You could also use a light bulb. You need to be aware when you use a light bulb. You need to take care to only use the amount of energy, give and take the amount of energy that you really need to in the very beginning. Just kind of be gentle. I have had some people burn out the electricity in their house and burst a couple of light bulbs. So try not to practice when you're feeling high levels of emotion. You can do that later on. And I always say that it's okay to use your emotion in your spell work, but when you're practicing controlling your energy, when you're working with your energy and you're working with your element, it's really important to be able to control it, at least at first, until you kind of get a feel for it. So one thing that you can do is you can play with a shadow that's cast on the floor. A shadow person could focus on making it grow, making it darker, making it move, making it change. A light person could focus on making it dissipate, making it shrink, pushing the light in on it. You could take turns working with a light bulb. If you have a light or a shadow partner, you could take turns, one of you making the light bulb dimmer and the other one making the light bulb brighter. It's an amazing two-person practice, and I love it. I love it. Okay, so enough about how to work with your elements. If you guys would be interested in learning how to work with and manipulate your elements, let me know. I'll make a video about that later on. For now, let's talk about how to find your element. You can do this a couple of different ways. You can do it with a meditation, which I will be creating at some point. I just haven't done it yet. But you can do this on your own. So what you can do is you can sit down, you can start an energy meditation. I have one of those. I'll leave a link somewhere. Wow, we're leaving lots of links today. And what you do is you would sit on the floor or wherever is comfortable. You connect yourself to the energy around you. If you feel the most comfortable grounding to the earth, you definitely can. But because earth is one of the elements, if you can summon your personal energy into your hands and throughout your being and open up your chakras without using the ley lines, without using the earth's energy, I would suggest doing it that way. So sit crisscross applesauce like normal, summon up energy into your hands, and then what I want you to do is focus on how it feels. Focus on what the energy feels like. Close your eyes, discern if it has a color. You can look at it with your eyes, or you can look at it with your third eye with your eyes closed. Discern if your energy has a color. What is the color? Discern if it has a specific feeling to it. If when you focus on it, you think of anything in particular, like being in a forest or being on the beach or surrounded by water, or does it feel like fire? Does it have a certain emotion attached to it? If you focus on your energy and finding your element, I guarantee you will find it. And most people, when they open up their intuition to try and discover what their element is, already have an idea of what it will be, and they just feel like they need a confirmation. So this is one way you can do it. If you want a more physical confirmation of what your element is, here's what you can do. Get 6 candles, okay? Get a yellow one for air, a blue one for water, red for fire, and green for earth, or you could use brown for earth. So you want one for everything, and then a white candle and a black candle for light and shadow. Put them in a circle, light them, or don't light them. You don't have to light them. I like to light them. Focus on your candles. The first thing you want to do is you want to focus on being neutral in opinion of all of the candles. If there are any of the candles, when you look at them all, that you just don't feel like you want to have there, you don't want to feel like you don't feel needs to be a part of your working, blow them out, remove them from the circle. Keep doing this until you're down to a small number, and pretty soon you will start to notice that you're feeling drawn to a certain candle. More often than not, that candle is going to symbolize your element. So if it's the blue candle, then you're probably a primarily water element witch. Now, this can go awry in that they're candles, so they're lit on fire. So if you wanted to use something else like colored stones or drawings or tarot cards or anything else that can signify your 6 elements, you could even just write them on pieces of paper and arrange them for yourself. If you want to, you can use your energy to scry which one is for you. And then once you figure it out, have fun with it. It's a no stress thing. You don't have to have a specific element, but it's so much fun if you do. And it's fun to figure out what it is, and it's fun to guess what your friends are. Play with that. Let me know if you do that exercise. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what your elements are. Leave that in the comments down below. Check out my Instagram if you haven't already. I put projects that I'm doing up on there. I post almost every single day. I post thoughts and inspiration, and I post pictures and videos of my puppy as well. Also, if you found that this video resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that little bell button so you know when more videos come out. I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to see more content like this from me, check out my Patreon. New patrons at the first tier will receive a free oracle or tarot reading from me, as well as video shout out. You'll get to have input on future videos, and you'll get to join our online spiritual community that we are building together. So if you want to be a part of the inner circle, get your butt on over to Patreon. And that is all I have for you tonight. Thank you so much, you guys. I love you. Have a beautiful night.